We've had a number of openings, some internal movement, so we've been very busy with that. And then our maintenance and IT people getting the buildings and grounds ready. Internally we have been reviewing a lot of data, particularly state assessment data, and planning for opening day and for the 26-27 school year. So that is all I have for this evening.
All right. Presentations. First up. How's it going to be?
You want to go? Arm wrestle. Good morning, all. During the school year, we've been working hard to deep clean all the buses, get them ready for the school year. We do that every year. Also, I wanted to tell you that the buses each year get a thorough examination by the State Highway Patrol, and then they do a spot inspection throughout the year. Happy to report that all the buses passed the thorough inspection, and probably half of them they've already done the spot inspection. So we're doing real good there. Due to the age, though, of the buses, we do have 2 buses that have some extensive problems that we're probably going to have to address, probably overhauling the engines. We got one in the shop now, and then hopefully we'll get the other one soon after. We just need to kind of keep looking for buses at some point, but we're good right now. Another thing we did, we applied for a student grant for cameras, and we won, or we was awarded about $24,700, and it was for safety items. One of the things being stop sign cameras. So we put our money in that, and we've got 10 buses fitted with that money. Would catch anybody that goes past our buses. So we have 10 buses in that, and hopefully we'll continue to do that throughout the year. I think they have another safety grant coming up, so we'll be applying for that. As far as the routes and stuff, we're working hard to route all the students, get them ready for the school year, and we will be sending out postcards probably the first week of August. To let everybody know the bus times and the bus times and the schedule on what bus. They did change a lot this year with changing of the way we did the things. One thing I will tell you that we did something differently this year. We usually have like non-eligible zones around the schools. This year, I mean, we never really had a non-eligible at South because it was just right, almost on a highway. We don't expect anybody to walk there. But Eastview, we did. This year, we're going to not do the non-eligible because, quite frankly, if they got a second grader 5 houses from Eastview, I don't want to be the one saying your 4th grader can't ride, but your 2nd grader can. So if they're out, we'll pick them up. I think we'll have plenty of room on the elementary buses for that. The struggle we have is the high school. And that's about there. As far as substitute bus drivers, we have a real struggle to maintain a list of substitutes, and this year's no different. I'm going to probably have to talk to Throb, and we'll have to figure out what we can do because it's hard. I don't know that I had maybe 2 people that was really interested even talking to me last year. And we're just dwindling down to really not a whole lot. I have some retirees that will help me out in pinches, but they don't want to do it every day. So, and then lastly, like in the past, we ask that open enroll students, that their parents will take them for the first month, because we got to make sure we can have buses available for our students, because that's what the law requires. So then after that first month, about September 15th or so, they can call, and we'll be doing student counts each of those weeks to see where we are and see what buses we could or could not have extra extra riders. And then we'll assign them to those buses at that point. And next month, I will be submitting it's a requirement by the state. Just basically, it's going to be a bus stop list that you guys will need to approve. So I think that's all I have. So any questions or anything? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Neron.
Good evening. It's been a busy summer, to say the least. Mifflin closing move was completed as of June 23rd. That's the major classroom moves between all 3 buildings. I want to say an extra thank you to my maintenance, my custodial, my sub-help for this. This was not an easy task, but they did it well, got it done in a sooner amount of time than I had thought we would do. Also, all the schools are on track to be completed with the classroom cleanings, summer cleaning work by the first week in August. We have put together a 5-year stripping and waxing schedule that we discussed last year. With this year's extra moves and things of that nature, we did not start that process. That will begin this next summer. High school roofing project. It's the continuation from last year's over the machining lab and welding. Welding section the welding and machining side is being done this year. Last year was the carpentry side. They actually started that today. They weren't supposed to be here till the first week of August. They had some other work get done sooner, so they started this actual process today. The south parking lot extension that was completed last summer, that is actually being seal coated and restriped as we speak, as well as the high school. We have the new section that was done 2 years ago that is being resealed since that was still virgin asphalt. We needed to make sure that that was taken care of. Stadium. The stadium asphalt is also being sealed this year, crack sealed, as well as a full surface sealing. This asphalt really should be replaced. We've looked into that. I've gotten multiple quotes this past year. It's just not in the budget at the moment to do so. It's to the point now that this will be our kind of final push for as much as we can do to get this to look and be as safe as possible. They are going to go through and chink all the cracks, fill it with a rubber substance, and then seal coat over the top of them. They are doing the entire front of the grandstands and wrapping around to the visitors' concession stand. So that's actually was started today as well. We had a late request come in from Mr. Nelson here at the middle school. He is looking to add on more areas on the 7th and 8th grade side of the building for outdoor activities. With the new mandate of being outside more physical activity, we are actually adding a 15 by 30 section to the basketball court so they can put in 3 4-square courts. He's also looking to install a swing set of some sort. That being a late request in there, I do not know if that's going to be able to be done this year, more toward next summer. But the addition to the basketball court is actually being started. They were supposed to start this past Monday, but we had some weather. Madison primary and intermediate. So we have, you guys approved for us to put the incline lifts in at both locations. They actually started today at Madison intermediate. They'll be installing the 3 lifts there. They've got 1 about halfway done. They expect to be finished by the end of next week with intermediate, then they'll move on to Madison's primary. That is a project that is actually ahead of schedule. They weren't expecting to be done until August 15th, so they are ahead of schedule. We have also purchased a hoop barn for our salt storage. In the past, we have used bag salt just due to the purpose of easier to store, easier for them to handle. With the cost of salt this past year went through the roof and the availability of it. We have actually partnered with Mifflin Township, and they are allowing us to purchase through them, through ODOT, at a substantially less price for bulk salt. We are putting up our hoop barn, and then we will have a 50-ton capacity on site through through Mifflin Township. They will receive the product on their end, and they will deliver to us to fill up our hoop barn for us. So that's something that we've worked out with them. And that is about it. Any questions or concerns?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Item I, can I get a motion for approval of donations?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
discussion?
Hearing none, Mr. Mosher,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Mr. Porter,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
4.
Sammy Walker.
4, and then can I get a motion for treasurer's business?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
and discussion.
All right, first item on that is the monthly financial report for June. I guess you guys don't have your things in front, it's behind, sorry. We ended the fiscal year pretty good. There you go. The revenues I put in there, I took out in the paragraph, I removed the advance that we got returned from the health insurance fund from last year, because even though those numbers are completely accurate, by that advance, it kind of skews the overall fiscal year-to-date data, because it makes it look like we had increase of almost 4% in revenue, when, yes, technically we did, but the main reason we had that big of an increase is because we had a return of an advance that we had basically let the self-insurance fund borrow. So I just put that in there in the paragraph so you guys could see that even though everything is completely accurate, that 3.75% increase is really skewed. It was really less than a 1% increase. And then the next thing on expenditures, I also put in, this is obviously, we did good. We spent $717,000 less this year than we did last year, which is really good. That is also completely accurate, but as, Mr. Neuron pointed out about the lifts, it's over $100,000 purchase that instead of paying for it in June when we had the purchase order on, I was like, let's push it off till next fiscal year. So even though that's completely accurate, that could have been a little bit closer to the 4 or 5 days cash on hand had I not said, hey, hold off. And the reason I said hold off is honestly because of cash flow. We don't get I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the county auditor said taxes aren't due now till August 27th. So we're not going to get our, the next real estate settlement till at the earliest September, which means cash flow is going to be tight. So I'm trying to push as much off as far as paying for extra things like lifts as long as I can to make sure we can pay our bills. So it was all for cash flow. But actually we ended the June exactly where we should have. Everything was fine. We actually ended the fiscal year pretty good. So that was the monthly report. Are there any questions on that really before we move on with the annual report, which is the next thing?
No.
All right. So the annual report this year is quite a bit different than it has been in the past, and that is because when you all passed the tax policy, there was a whole list of different reports that were in that tax policy that I was to report out to you. And the reason being is that way when the board makes a decision on levies and everything, you all had the overall, what are the demographics, where did we end up, how did things, so this is much larger because I included all those. The first thing that I included, which this is not something that this is something I've done every year, so this isn't new, is the forecast comparison. And I can let you, you guys can look through those variances. I'm happy. I was within 0.93% for revenues from the October forecast and 0.88, so within 1% there. And then on expenditures, 0.33 and 0.48 for the variances for the expenditures. So I was within 1% for both the October and February to where we actually ended up, which I'm happy about. But I also want to point out I want you to, I'm forewarning you, next year, I highly doubt I'm going to be this accurate, and here's why. The forecast is now due in August. Last year it was due in October. Well, in August, by that time, we will not have received our first FY27 tax payment, which last year we would have. So because we don't know, I'm not 100% sure what the abatements are going to be, or not abatements, the delinquencies are going to be. When I used to do it in October, we'd already received the second half, which of, the second half payment for the last year's taxes. So I had a pretty good idea of what was going on with at least half of our, half of that revenue stream. This year in August, that's going to be at least a month, maybe two, before I get it. The other thing is, last year and every other year, when I present it in August, that already includes the October head count, which the October head count is what our foundation's based on. Well, this happens to be, we have to give the forecast in August. That's before the first day of school. So I not only don't have the October head count, we could have a change in enrollment in the first day of school compared to what we have now. So those are two things that are pretty big. In addition to that, this FY 2026 is a triennial update. Okay, so the triennial update, the county auditor doesn't have any idea really what is going to happen on the February 2027 real estate, because it's just going on right now. So if I present it, I have to present it in August. That's a whole lot. So that's why I don't want you to expect the revenues to be as close as they are this year. The second thing is, as far as expenditures, I present it to you in August. All those people that resigned, moved on, were RIFed, whatever, they still carry insurance till the end of August. So September 1st is the first month that I'm going to have with not having any of those people on our premiums. So when I have to present it to you, and this is all based on when the state makes us present. So I want you to realize that I'm not anticipating next year's variances to be as close. My goal is and always will be to be as accurate as possible. I will do my best to try to get within 1%. But with making us report in August for the first time, I don't anticipate being that close. So next slide, please. This is something I do every year, basically just tells us where our big revenues and big expenditures were, which you guys all know that. Real estate, state foundation are big revenues. Wages and benefits and utilities are our big expenditures. But that breaks it out with the percentages. That's nothing new. And that was on your report. Next one. This is something new that I've not presented to you before, and it is called a sensitivity report. So sensitivity report is basically how sensitive is the general fund overall balance to different changes. And to try to make things so they made sense, I based it all on a 1%. So what does a 1% change in property taxes do to our general fund? What does a 1% change in delinquency rates do? What's a 1% change in foundation do? So I broke it out in, the pie chart form here, and then I'm not going to read it to you because I've already sent it. You guys can read it on your own. The next one, expenditures, I did the same thing. 1% change in base wages, 1% change in benefits, like what we have to pay for premiums for health insurance, and then a 1% change for purchase services in the next page. And then what I did is I took all those at the top and then I put it in a bar chart. So you can see right now, as far as sensitivity, our general fund overall balance, bottom line, is most sensitive to a 1% change in base rates as this first. The second one, it's the second most sensitive to a 1% change in foundation. And then, in the little summarization on the thing, I told you like 25 kids is equivalent to a 1% change in foundation. And then delinquency, what's a 1% change in delinquency do? Well, that's the third. 1% change in health insurance premiums. And you know, I don't have to read, I can go on to, you guys get the general idea. The next thing at the bottom, I put in there, I guess I put in there because of all the things that we always hear on Facebook. I probably shouldn't have put it in, but I did anyway. When everybody says, cut administrators, you're top heavy. That dark green thing, and this came from the audit, the performance audit the state of Ohio did. That dark green section is what we spend on the administrators. So that should show you that, you know, we're not top heavy in spending on administrators. That's not fair. So when they say, oh, cut them up, well, yeah, right. That's where we're going to cut it from. I mean, the smallest, not the smallest, but one of the smaller pieces of the pie. So I put that in there just to be what it was. Next one, this is enrollment. I will tell you, I track this based on these numbers. Well, the graph is based on numbers, and the numbers are based on what Allison Kahn, which is our EMIS coordinator, gives us as the actual butts in seat at the end of the year. The butts in the seat at the end of the year is enrollment. That is different than ADM, average daily membership. An average daily membership is how many kids on average are throughout the year. This is specifically what Allison gives me at the end of the year, where we end the enrollment. Now, there's something I want to point out to you. Obviously, the 2015 through the 2026 are actual numbers. From 2027 on, what I do is, if there's 175 kids in kindergarten in 2026, I move those 175 kids to first grade in 2027. If there's 163 kids in second grade in 2026, I move those 163 kids to third grade in 2027. So the reason it's declining, if you look at like 2026 data, there were 90 more kids in 9 through 12 at the end of the year than there were in K through 3. It was 766 to 676. So if you have 90 more kids in 9 through 12 that are going out than the kids that are coming up K through 3, that just tells you we are in declining enrollment. And this declining enrollment ties to that expenditure sensitivity report when I said how much is foundation going to occur, how much is foundation, what's a 1% change in foundation? Well, the change in foundation is based on enrollment. So obviously if enrollment declines, foundation's going down. So this is just showing you where our trend is. And you know, you guys have seen the general fund, the expenditures per pupil, and this primary peer average is what the state of Ohio used. It isn't our local Ashland and Lexington and Ontario. This is, you know, those like 15 districts throughout the state of Ohio that they chose to say, here's who you're most comparable to. So that's what that expenditure per pupil is. Next slide. Affordability index, I'd put two different things on here, and I'll tell you why. The top one is I created that chart based on what David Conley did, the formula he used with you guys in those 6 or 7 trainings, and that includes the median, it's small, the median value of an owner occupied, the assessed value, the median household income, total class. It includes all those things for the local area. And if you look, we're pretty affordable. I mean, yeah, it says Lucas and Crestview are below us, but they're not too much below us. We are affordable compared to everybody, pretty affordable compared to everybody else. That's my calculation, and it's based on, I told you. The bottom two, that local tax effort index and the other one, those are state of Ohio. The top one came from the performance audit, and the bottom one came from ODEW's the comparability index. And that is a complete formula the Ohio Department of Education uses, and they make the state on average as a 1, and if you're below 1, then the local tax effort is less than the state average. If it's above 1, it's above. Well, if you look, we're right below the state average. And if you look, we're, you know, kind of in the middle with our local county peers in the bottom. So I put those two in. Just, I mean, it means the same thing, it's just a little bit different way of looking at it. Next. Oops. Okay, these are also things that were in that tax policy, renter versus owner occupied, and this has to do with when we discuss what kind of a levy to put on, you know, is it a property tax? Is it an income tax? Well, you know, property tax, how many people does that hit compared to an income tax? And if you look, they're Madison, the only two districts in the county that are higher for renters are Shelby and Mansfield City. Everybody else has a lot higher owner occupied than we do. And then the next little circle graph, you can see the population distribution, and that was put in there so you could tell, you know, how many people are over 65, which you can assume for the most part, most of them are probably on a fixed income. How many are under the age of 18, which you can assume they're probably at home, maybe not working, so they're not part of the workforce. And then you can see the population distribution where that's who is paying the taxes if you did an income tax. Then the next below that is poverty rate, which that's very, I don't know if, it's interesting how it mirrors the owner occupied. If you look at those, the top three, Mansfield, Shelby, Madison, Mansfield, Shelby, Madison, and then it just goes down from there. The unemployment rate is in there too for Richland County. The unemployment rate in the occupational groups, well, actually all these came from this thing called the Ohio Municipal Advisory Committee. And, you know, they get their demographics, they get their stuff reported from the Fed and census and all that. And it's a free thing for anybody to go on and look. And that's where I got all this information. All right, next, and I think final. That is just a bunch of other funds. The general fund is the top to show, yeah, we did a little bit better. We actually, you know, we spent less than we received, which is good, which is what we need to do every year, especially if we want to get to 60 days cash on hand. That's imperative to do. But then I have it broken down to all other funds and debt funds, and because the debt funds were part of the, even though I do it every year, it was part of the tax policy, adult ed, self-insurance, and so on and so forth. And that's it for the annual report. Before I move on to the rest of these, because that was a lot of information, do you guys have any questions? Anybody want nothing? Okay. The approval of a transfer for unclaimed monies, I'm just going to let you know what happens. So let's say we pay somebody or reimburse somebody, they overpaid a fee, and we send them a check. Well, we always send people money by check. That's the way we do business. If they don't cash that check, after so long, we have to move it into an unclaimed money. And it just sits there for a period of a couple years through the Ohio Revised Code, 5 years. And then once 5 years is gone, then we can just take it off of off of that fund, unclaimed, and then put it back in the general fund to use it. So we have to kind of like sit on it because we're a public entity. We have to sit on that money for 5 years. So it could be a return of a fee. It could be, let's say somebody did something for the district, and per the contract, we owe them, so we pay them. And they say, well, I don't really want any money for that. Well, they just don't cash the check. So that's what that is. Approval of transfer from a class of 2026. So, you know, obviously the class just graduated, and they had some money left over, and they wanted to be kind and donate it to the making the press box. So that's what that is for. Number 5, petty cash. That is, we have to have operating money to do business. I mean, somebody comes in to pay a fee or buy something at the MECLC or intermediate or adult ed, they have to have cash on hand to make change. So that's basically what that's for. And then at the end of the year, we obviously get that back. And then number 6, that resolution is the resolution that I will take to the Board of Elections that says, here is the resolution to go get us put on the ballot. So once you approve that, hopefully, that, I will take that to the Board of Elections tomorrow, and then we'll, go ahead and be put on the ballot. So that's all of mine. Is there any questions? All right, Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Porter.
4.
Mrs. Connerman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4. Item K, matters related to personnel, including the addendum. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
And do we have discussion?
The only thing that I would bring up is that number 3, confidential personnel, the appointment of Crystal McMillan to Adult Ed Financial Aid Coordinator. That coordinates with, under my business coming next, number 5, which would be adding that position to the confidential classified employee salary schedule. And that all is a result of some reorganization done in the adult ed office. And through that reorganization, there'd be a reduction in cost to the adult ed program. And again, they are self-funded. That's not part of the general fund, but they are looking out at cutting costs as well. So due to reorganization and cost cutting.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Mrs. Connerman.
4.
Mr. Porter.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4. Item L, superintendent's business, 1 through 6, and then we have number 7 in the addendum. Can I get a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I'll just comment on item number 6, which is the Community Reinvestment Area Compensation Agreement with Newman Technology, the City of Mansfield, and us. Just want to let you know that between Brad and myself and David Conley, Mr. McGregor also helped out. We worked very hard at trying to ensure that we came to a fair agreement with these entities, and in doing so, felt like we were treated very fairly and very well by them. And the goal of that agreement is to Newman Technology will get a 100% abatement on their taxes for 15 years. However, between Newman paying what they would have paid, half of what they would have paid in taxes to the district, and the City of Mansfield paying the other 50% to the district based on the increase in income tax that they'll receive from that project, we should be made whole and receive the same amount of tax dollars as we would have had there been no abatement. So really appreciate the partnership and work that was done with the City of Mansfield and Newman on that. That's all.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mrs. Connerman.
4.
Mr. Porter.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4. Visitors, comments? Item N, President's Business. On July 22nd, we'll be meeting at 5 p.m. at the Mid-Ohio Educational Service Center to do work with the strategic planning work session, and then our next regular Board of Education meeting will be August 12th at 6 p.m. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
In a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Mrs. Connerman.
4.
Mr. Porter.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.